Out of the bone zone and into the fire.
No! Not into the pit! It burns!
Hello everyone, Kiri here, and today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest misunderstandings in the entire Ben 10 franchise. As you may know, Atomix is one of my favourite aliens, so I'm sick and tired of hearing him being compared to NRG, when the two of them don't even have the same power sets. That's right, I said it. NRG is not radioactive, and I am here to prove it. Without further ado, let's get right into it. It's hero time! For this video, we're going to be discussing why I believe that NRG isn't actually radioactive in nature, and why you should stop saying he's radioactive because you're all wrong, you bunch of fucking hacks! Anyway, I think this misconception comes from the episode where Ben, Gwen, and Kevin fight Pandora at a nuclear power plant. In this episode, Gwen mentions how, as Pandora is eating the nuclear material in the reactor, radiation levels are rising in the reactor chamber. I think a lot of people assume that this means that Pandora himself gives off radiation, which definitely isn't the case. Here's a quick lesson on nuclear reactors. When you remove a reactor rod, like Pandora does as he eats them one by one, the reactivity of the reactor increases. Pandora is not the one emitting radiation, but rather the reactor itself is beginning to emit substantially more radiation due to the fact that Pandora is eating the reactor rods and making the reactor more unstable. But then you may say that if Pandora isn't himself radioactive, why does he grow more powerful upon eating radioactive material? Well, Probotosian bees like Pandora and NRG clearly have powers over pyrokinesis and temperature manipulation, as seen by the fact that NRG can produce magma and the fact that they both shoot beams of heat-based energy. Nuclear fission produces heat. Pandora becomes more powerful and capable of emitting more heat after eating something with nuclear properties, implying that his body is actually gaining power from the heat produced by nuclear fission, not the nuclear material itself. If this wasn't enough to convince you that Pandora isn't radioactive but rather just extremely hot, let's acknowledge his suit. Though his suit is supposedly made of lead, a material known for its high nuclear resistance, that likely isn't the case, seeing as only Taydonite was able to cut it open and lead is a particularly weak metal physically. And on top of that, lead has a particularly low melting point when compared to other metals. So if something that is literally constantly emitting heat was what was inside the suit would have melted into oblivion long ago. As such, this material is likely lead-like, but not outright lead, especially considering how Pandora could intentionally heat up his suit without it just immediately melting off his body. Also, if Pandora really was radioactive, the entire purpose of his suit would be literally fucking useless. There are 3 big grills on the front of the suit, and even if Pandora didn't have the ability to shoot heat beams out of his grill, do you know how dangerous radiation poisoning is? The fact that this suit has an open faceplate means that Pandora doesn't emit radiation, because if he did, everyone around him would literally be dead due to the constantly exposed source of active nuclear power. It makes a lot more sense that Pandora produces heat and not radiation, as heat is, on its own, relatively harmless if only being emitted at low temperatures, such as with a radiator. On that same note, if Pandora was radioactive and not heat-based, how does he have the ability to produce magma and heat up his suit? Radiation doesn't do that, heat does. If Pandora was constantly emitting radiation, then on top of how ridiculous his faceplate is, him and NRG getting out of their suits would literally be a death sentence for everyone around them. When you consider that he's also firing off literal beams at his enemies, this pretty much says for certain that NRG doesn't produce radiation, because if he did, every single enemy Ben uses against would be dying of cancer right now. Direct blasts of radiation to the body and constant proximity to a source of active radiation? There would be no life surrounding anywhere these guys went. And even if all of this isn't enough to convince you, then please take even a single moment to consider this. If both NRG and Atomix produce radiation, then why is Atomix's radiation-based power so much stronger than that of NRG's? Atomix can punch people into orbit and can blow up entire buildings with very little effort. Hell, Atomix can literally create a miniature sun. NRG can do none of this. If both of them are radiation-powered, you'd expect them to at least have the same level of physical strength because the nuclear power is what fuels their physical strength. But no, because NRG is clearly physically weaker than Atomix, and he's not going around producing explosions on anywhere near the same level, but rather, he's producing lava and heating up his suit and firing off heat beams. NRG is not radioactive. NRG does not produce nuclear energy. NRG is not on the same level as Atomix. These two aliens have completely different power sets, and I'm very passionate about making that clear, as you could probably tell. I don't care what the wiki says, I don't care what the writers have said, all the evidence is literally right here before your eyes, as I've presented. But hey, that's just a theory! A Ben 10 theory! Actually, no, it's pretty indisputable fact, as I've made it very clear with this video. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please let me know in the comments below. And if you still think NRG is radioactive, then I politely encourage you to fuck off and never come back. Prove my theory wrong. I triple dog, quadruple frog, pentuple hog dare you. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's move into our usual post-video antics. Big thank you to our channel's Thunderbeasts, Sharky, Boa310, Riverjoy, Adiana Jones, and Victor Matusik. Welcome to the ranks of our channel members, Sharky. So happy to see you here. Now, let's look at last video's poll, where I asked you guys if you preferred the battle between Diamond Head and Vilgax, the good and bad Bens, Way Big and the Way Bads, or Cannonbolt and the Big Tick. With 1,187 total votes, Diamond Head vs Vilgax scored 24% total favour, giving it second place. The good vs bad Bens fight won overall with a big 51% overall score. Way Big vs the Way Bads got 15% of the votes, and little old Cannonball only got 9% of the votes for his fight with the Big Tick, sadly. This time, there are actually 2 correct answers for anyone trying to guess which one was my favourite of the 4. From these options, my favourites are the Diamond Head and Vilgax fight and the Cannonball and the Big Tick fight. Diamond Head vs Vilgax was such a brilliant moment for the franchise, and it literally gave me chills when I first watched it as a kid. Amazing build-up, super cool dialogue, and a badass conclusion to one of Alien Force's most hyped-up battles. Cannonbolt is my favourite alien overall, even though I do think Pesky Dust has the most interesting niche and Atomix has the most interesting personality gimmick. So the fact that he got such a prominent role in his debut episode, and he got revenge for his entire speeches against the one who sent them into extinction, is honestly just amazing. Love that storyline. I love my big roly-poly boy, and this scene always makes me smile when I go back to watch it for the 14,000th time. Alongside my favourite line from that episode, and an Arburian Pelarota. Now, big shout out to everyone who guessed my favourites correctly. Dark-Winged Angel 136, Cess, Red Knight 3979, Sharky, Nathans29, Lucy West 370, The Peaceful End 7716, Nerwin Dangle 1054, Brainstorm 13, William Swartz 8557, and I'm a Deity. Now, let's move into this video's poll to finish things up for today. This time, I'm going to be asking you guys which alien you prefer out of Astrodactyl and Jetray. 2 aliens that I hear compared to one another pretty often in the fandom. The poll will also have an option for if you like them both equally or dislike them both equally. So, as usual, comment which one you think I like the most for a chance to get a shout out next video. See you next time, fellow heroes.